Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, you've seen I've just popped a few messages into the chat box just to let you know that that is the place to introduce yourselves, do a bit of networking if you would like to tell us a little bit about your organization, maybe a little bit about your project ideas if you have one, and any questions as well for myself. So I'm Zoe from Crowdfunder. I'm the community manager. And I'm also being joined today by Becky Evans and Lucy Gola from the Sport England case study team. So they'll be able to talk through the movement fund in more detail and will also be on hand, as I say, to answer any of your questions about the match funding opportunity from Sport England and crowdfunding as a whole. So, just a bit of housekeeping then before we get started. We have allowed an hour for this session, and that does include time for those questions towards the end. If you do want to ask those questions, as I've mentioned, pop them into the chat box, or there is also a Q&A tab as well along in your kind of toolbar. So you can pop them in those if you would prefer. This is a live session, however, we are recording the whole thing. So we'll make sure that we can get that recording out to you by way of a follow-up email and signpost you in the right direction to take the next steps. Now, if you do have any issues with your internet connection, maybe you drop off the call, the best thing to do is just follow that kind of live room link. So the joining link that you would have been sent, come straight back into the live room. And if you do need us to bring you back up to speed with anything, please do pop a message into the chat box and we can do that for you. And if for whatever reason you can't see the whole of the slide because there's our little videos sitting along the top, please just head to the view option, which is just should be on your top left of your screen, and choose side by side speaker view. Top right, sorry, not top left. Okay, so let's have a little look at crowdfunding then. So for some of you on the call today, it might be a completely new concept. Some of you might have used other platforms. So we are Crowdfunder UK. You might have used some other crowdfunding platforms. So the principle is going out to your community, your crowd of people around you to raise money, something that you're probably all quite familiar with doing face to face. What we do at Crowdfunder UK and some of the other platforms out there is we give you the ability to do that in the digital space. So you're able to set up a crowdfunding campaign page, and that's where you're going to add some great pictures, talk about the wonderful things that you do as an organization or a club or a charity. And then you're also going to outline what it is that you need to raise money for, and of course, decide on how much money you need to raise. Once you've set all of that up, the idea is that you would go live with that project. So you're going to launch that on our website. A very simple kind of one button go live, and then that is launched to the public. It is up to you to share that page, so to share that link with all of your friends, family, colleagues, fellow volunteers, and everybody within your crowd and within your network. Once you've done that, the idea is that you are going to self-promote. I just want to check. So I'm just stopping here. Am I frozen for everybody? Let me just pop in the chat box. I can see that somebody's mentioned I'm frozen. Okay. Thanks, Deb. Sorry, Lena. I think it might just be yourself that it's frozen for. So if it doesn't ping back, maybe let me just pop a message in there for Lena. Try exiting and rejoining is probably best. I don't know why I'm talking to them because if I'm frozen. Oh, Carl. Um, sorry, everybody. Mid-flow. Carl. Right. Oh, brilliant. It's good. Okay for Carl now as well. Fab. If anyone else finds that they have an issue like that, it is best to just drop off the call and come back in. But I'm glad it's not me freezing for everybody. Thank you for letting me know, Deb. Okay. Where was I? So spreading the word, making sure that you are promoting your own crowdfunding campaign to your audience. There is a slight myth that if you launch a crowdfunding campaign, because it is visible to the public, the magical funding fairies will somehow find it and put lots of pledges and donations onto your page. We wish it was the case. And sometimes it does happen, but it's because people are kind of browsing for that particular project or, funding aims, project ideas, it's not very common. So the best thing that you need to be doing is really having a plan in place as to how you're going to promote that and who you're going to promote it to. There is lots of support and advice to help you do that effectively and successfully. And we are here to kind of help support you every step of the way. So do engage with us at Crowdfunder. If you are seeking to access the Sport England Movement Fund, please do reach out to Sport England as well. They're really, really supportive and helpful with that process. And ultimately, when you then have that support, you bring in those donations, you can fund your projects. So your supporters will donate, they can pledge money, they can claim rewards, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail further on. And at the close of your campaign, you will obviously receive the money that you've raised if you're a successful campaign. And then it's up to you to make sure you're spending that in the way that you have told your supporters you will be. And obviously, there's certain things you'll need to report back to Sport England as well if you've been approved for that funding. So why would you choose to raise money in this way and not kind of your traditional maybe grant applications or your face-to-face kind of fundraising that you might already be doing? Well, there are quite a few different benefits that come along with raising money in this way that can really complement, of course, that financial raise which you're trying to achieve. So first of all, it's a great way to help yourselves build confidence in your own idea and also to see if there's an appetite for what you're trying to achieve with the wider community. It's a low risk way essentially of testing the water to see if people want your project or your idea to come to fruition. And then there'll be the awareness side of things. So doing this in a public facing way, actually getting your message out there to your network, to your community, is going to help build awareness around what you're doing and also around your group or your club, your organization or your charity. Quite often, when people are going through this process, they will be surprised by the feedback that they get from their community that might be, we didn't realize that you were a social enterprise, or we didn't realize that actually you're run by a team of volunteers. We just assumed you had a sustainable income that was helping you to deliver these projects. So it can be a real eye opener for the community, and that can be really beneficial for you as well to understand how you are seen by your community and by your crowd. A question here from Lena. Are you sending us the spreadsheets? Do you mean, if you mean the slides, we can potentially make those accessible for you. Absolutely. I will liaise with our marketing team who'll be sending out the email to you. And if they will be of benefit, I can ask them to include them. Yeah. But you will definitely get the replay as well. Okay. Advocates, this is a really important one. So again, putting things out there for the public, getting your message across in that kind of human interest, engaging way can help build up advocacy in the community around you. And what I mean by that is people that are donating to your page, people that are sharing your page on your behalf, they're essentially advocating for you and your story and your project. And that can be really impactful because you don't know who those people are going to be. And they could actually have access to quite wide networks. They could be quite influential within the community or business community. They might be able to chip in some money, but they could actually spread your message far and wide. We're actually very strong advocates at Crowdfunder. So we obviously see loads of projects coming through, and there'll be some that resonate with us as individuals, maybe because it's local to where we're living, maybe it's because it's something to do with, you know, things that we're passionate about as well. So getting that message really clear on your page and making it engaging so that it resonates not only with your existing supporters, so that might be members, people who are already benefiting from what you do, people that are close to your project, but also making sure that you can communicate that message so it's understood by people who might not know much about you. That's really important. And making sure you stay in contact with groups of people. So sharing regular updates to your page, making sure you're reaching back out to thank people if you can for their support. That's always really helpful. All of this, you might find that, okay, I feel a little bit daunted. I'm not too sure where to start. I mentioned all of the support that we have, and it might be that actually you're developing some new skills to be able to do this, sorry. We will help you. So there are lots of guides, there's lots of advice on how to do each stage. And actually, once you develop those skills, they can be really transferable into different areas of your organization going forward. And of course, there's the extra funding or the match funding offer that we have as Sport England being one of our partners. We also work with different corporates and organisations, both nationally and regionally, so some local authorities as well. So do check what funding you could be eligible for to add into your project. So why is it that sport and physical activity crowdfunds so well? And we do have a really great history of sporting sector, physical activity sector crowdfunding really successfully. And that is because you have so many things already kind of at your disposal that makes a good crowdfunding campaign. Things like a ready-made crowd. So it could be that you've already got an existing membership or you're already delivering a project, you're already having community engagement. So you've got your crowd there already. In terms of that shared passion, you will have people who want to see this happen for them, for you, for the organization, especially if they're involved with the sport or the physical activity. There will be a team of people around you, hopefully, that can help support you within this as well. Um, and in terms of being known in the community, most likely, especially kind of traditional sports clubs and casks, they're normally a bit of a hub of the community, but so are organisations that are delivering physical activity. You could already be known as a strong kind of pillar of the community in terms of what you're doing. So you've got that in your arsenal, if you like, as well. You're able to lean on your networks and lean on your what's the word I'm looking for? Lean on the fact that people know you, they know who you are. If you have capacity, you can always try and set some fundraising challenges or activities to get people involved as well with raising money for you and with you. I've mentioned there your networks, reaching out to your network, not only to support you financially and to share your project, but maybe offer some of those rewards that we'll discuss, which can be a great incentive to boost the amount that people might be donating to your project. It could be that you've got some local celebrity or maybe some alumni that have come up through the ranks. Reach out to them. They might be able to share it into their networks. Don't put all of your kind of hopes on that being the one thing that's going to push it out to a massive audience. It might not. Actually, working with your close connections and your close community is really important. But it could just be the icing on top of the cake, if you like. It just take it out to that wider audience if possible. And of course, champion that community impact through everything that you're doing. So make sure that you're able to have that detailed on your page, shout about it in any promotion, and make sure people understand just how impactful you have already been and how much more you plan to achieve. And we're being joined today by Becky from Sport England, who's going to talk to us about the Movement Fund. So I'm going to hand you over to Becky. Any questions about the Movement Fund, please pop them into the chat and we can make sure that we go through those after this little section. I'm going to leave it to you, Becky. Please let me know if you want me to move slides on.
Okay. Thanks, Terry, and thanks everyone for turning up today. Great to be able to talk to you about the Movement Fund. My name's Becky, and we've also got Lucy on the call today. I'm an investment advisor, so on a day-to-day basis, so if you've ever phoned Sport England, you've probably chatted to myself, Lucy, or one of our colleagues. So the Movement Fund, it offers awards of up to £15,000 to projects, so to organisations that are running projects that encourage people to be active. So it's challenging inactivity, providing opportunities for more people to be active on a regular basis. The fund will fund things like setting up new sessions, help to improve or create new spaces, and we're also keen to support projects that have an environmental sustainability focus where that project will mean that more people will be active as a result. To be able to apply to Sport England, you need to be a not-for-profit organisation, so like a sports club or a community interest company or a charity. And if you do intend to apply for Sport England funding, so apply to us as an extra funder to support your crowdfunder, you can apply in one in two ways. You can go onto our website, read through the movement fund criteria, and you can then register on our application portal. We'll send you a username and a password, and then you can complete the application. Or, as you guys are already keen to have a go at crowdfunding, what you can do is go onto the crowdfunder website, set up your campaign, and then apply to us as apply to Sport England as an extra funder. Within your application, it's really important that you tell us who's going to benefit from your project. Specifically, it might align with one of our priority groups, which were listed on the slide previously, why your project is needed and how you know it's needed. So, have you been out and undertaken any consultation? Have you done any surveys? Have you collected any expressions of interest? How you're going to deliver your project, what barriers your project's going to remove, whether your project is value for money, how you're going to sustain activity on completion of your project. And it's really important that you provide a clear delivery breakdown and a clear budget breakdown. So really plan out your project before you make an application to us. It's currently taking around 6 weeks to get a decision to people, but there's no deadline. So apply to us when you're ready to make that application. Lovely. So if you're looking to crowdfund, we can provide 50% awards up to £15,000. So if your campaign target is 20,000, we would give you 10 and then support you to raise the remaining 10. Okay, yep. So really important. So there is criteria with pledge awards. You guys, so how it works is you'd set off in your campaign. You'd raise 25% of your target. So if it was 10,000, you'd raise 2,500 from at least 25 unique supporters. Our pledge would then land on your page, and then you'd need to raise the remaining 25% to lock in our pledge. On completion of the campaign, you could draw down the funds that are raised from Crowdfunder, and then we will pay our awards separately straight into your bank account.
Thank you, Becky. That's really, really helpful. And I know that you are more than happy for people to contact Sport England directly with any specific eligibility questions.
Yep,
We've
definitely.
just had a few coming through actually. So I know that Lucy's in the chat box answering these as well, but just for everybody, can local authorities apply?
Yeah. Yes, local authorities can apply to Sport England. As long as it's not for profit, which obviously local authorities are, they can apply to Sport England. One organisation can apply for 15,000 over a 12-month period, so we can't award any more than 15,000 to one organisation.
Okay, fabulous. And this is an interesting one about schools. I know we've had a few questions about schools in the past. Can schools apply?
Yep, schools absolutely can apply. The couple of things that schools need to think about. So through the movement fund, we won't be able to take part. We won't be able to support activity that takes place during the school day. So it does need to be outside of the school day and open to the wider community. If it's a facility project, there needs to be a need for the project from the local community, and then the community needs, so the facility needs to be accessible and bookable for the wider community as well. Sorry, my
Lovely.
dad's just dropped my dog back off.
Oh,
See,
Thank
if
you very
anybody
much.
wondered if it was definitely live. I love it when stuff like this happens. Oh, hello.
Sorry.
No, don't
Thank you,
apologise.
Dad.
Hello, Becky's dad. Um, and then just one more. This is an interesting one. So Carl's asking if they have to raise £6,000, only raise 3,000, would your pledge go down from 6 to 3 in match funding? Oh, okay. I think
Yeah.
this is we need to think about. Do you mean, Carl? if you have to raise 6,000, as in your target is the 6,000, or in this instance, is your target 12,000 and you're raising 6,000 of it? Because I think there's two separate kind of answers there, isn't there? Um, but just to reiterate that Sport England would provide up to 50% of your target. So let's in this instance say that Carl's target is £12,000. They need to raise six of it. What happens if they only raise three?
Okay, so we do agree how much we would match prior to you completing your campaign. So unfortunately, if we'd pledged 6K and you only raised three, then unfortunately we wouldn't be able to proceed with the award. To achieve to meet award conditions, you'd need to raise that 6,000 so that we could award our 6,000.
Fabulous, thank you. And as you can see on the slide here, essentially you can see the way in which the pledge would land. So as Becky's already explained, you raised 25% of that. So the idea would be, Carl, that you would raise £3,000. You'd see £6,000 land from Sport England, and you would still need to raise the remaining three after that point to hit your target. If you didn't, unfortunately, you would lose out on the Sport England funding. You'd lose out on that £6,000 from Sport England. You would potentially keep the crowd money that you'd raised, depending on the mechanism you've chosen. So there's a few different. I don't want to kind of overwhelm you with the different things. I think the main thing to focus on is you do need to hit your target in order to secure the Sport England money, essentially. Okay. I can see Lucy's helping out in the chat box as well with that one. Becky, are you okay to stick around for the end of the session as well? We'll do a few more crowdfunder slides and then we'll pick up any questions towards the end.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I have mentioned rewards a few times in this session. What are rewards? Essentially, it's listing a product or a service, maybe some merchandise, maybe tickets to an event. It's listing things on your page that people can claim. Okay, so they're not just making a straightforward donation, they're actually claiming one of these items or one of these rewards. And the reason for enabling you to do that is it can be a really great way to incentivize your supporters to give a little bit more, especially if those rewards resonate with them. So let's just look at this project as an example. So this is a cricket club, and you can see here that they've got things like name a lane. So that's probably going to be aimed at their business community around them, a bit of a sponsorship reward. So for £620, a supporter could claim that reward and get the honour of naming one of the new lanes. And actually, they did. They had one of those rewards claimed. They host a annual Christmas Carol concert, and so they decided to put some of those tickets up as early bird tickets as rewards on their page. So they managed to sell all of those. It's obviously a popular event that they hold each year. And then they have a meal for two voucher here with drinks for a local restaurant, it looks like. So that was for £40, and then somebody has gone and claimed that as well. So the idea behind them is you are listing things that are of interest to your community at price points which are either below an RRP or good value for money. And that can help people to feel as if they're getting something back for their money, which is a lovely thing to be able to do. It can encourage them to give a little bit more. So I might have been thinking of donating £10 and going to the Christmas Carol concert. However, now I'm going to give £15 and get my early bird ticket because I was going anyway. So it makes sense for me to do that through the crowdfunder. The other thing it helps you to do is to have those conversations with different areas of your network. It's another call to action so that you can have a conversation that doesn't always have to be, please, can you give us your money? You can have a conversation with people, which is, please, could you share our campaign? If you can, it'd be great if you could offer us a reward to list on our page or, make a donation and make a pledge. We would encourage you when anybody is offering you a reward, gifting you a reward, to really shout about it. either in your campaign itself, so post an update, maybe put something out there on social media, and actually kind of share that mutually beneficial message. So let's say for the restaurant here that's offered that voucher, that's going to be useful for them because they could be getting a new customer base through the kind of supporters of the crowdfunder. And if this project owner was to reach back out to the restaurant and say, please, could you promote that you've done such a great thing to your audience? Actually, the crowdfunding campaign is finding a new set of supporters or a new audience through the restaurant promoting it to their customer base. So it is mutually beneficial. We have seen that projects offering rewards can boost their average pledges by around 30%. So it can actually really help to drive more money onto your campaign. It might not be through people claiming all of your rewards. It might just be that actually through the process of sourcing them and promoting them, you're able to reach more people with your overall message. So do think about adding some of those if you have capacity to do so. And probably the hardest part of crowdfunding is knowing how to connect with your crowd. So who are you going to reach out to and how are you going to get your message across? The easiest way to do this is in the planning stages. So think about breaking up your overall crowd, so your community, into smaller groups to make it more manageable. So rather than just putting out a social media post, kind of shouting from the rooftops or sending a blanket email that doesn't feel particularly personal to everybody in your entire contacts list and database. Those approaches probably won't yield the best results. There'll be lots of people who don't engage with that because it doesn't feel personal, they don't feel connected to it. So, if you're breaking up your audience into smaller groups and really thinking about what's the best way to contact this group of people. For my friends and family, for example, I might just have a conversation face to face. I might pick up the phone, drop them a WhatsApp message, put it into the family group chat. Whereas actually with local businesses, I might get some flyers printed and go in and see if they'll pop them in there. I might go and approach them about rewards. And then, things like existing members or existing beneficiaries, that might be a newsletter. That might be that I do have a list of contacts that actually I can communicate with in that way. And that is the best way to contact them. So think about who sits within these groups. What's the best way to speak to each of them or communicate with each of them? And then also, what part of your story or your message, the project itself, what part of that is going to resonate best with them? Again, going back to friends and family, it could be as simple as they know how kind of invested I am in this. I'm really passionate about it and they want to see it succeed because they want to see me succeed. So they might give their money because they're supportive of me and my ideas. When it comes to those local businesses, it might be the fact that, yes, they would love to do a bit of mutually kind of beneficial promotion, or actually, they're really supportive of community endeavours and they would love to get behind you. For your existing members or beneficiaries, it could be that actually this is something that they've been really wanting to happen for a while. You're refitting or revamping the changing rooms to make them more accessible, and that's directly going to benefit them. So that's going to be the thing that you lead with for that group of people. Always make sure that you are keeping up communication as well throughout the course of the campaign. So posting regular updates to your page. So you have an update function. You can post a message to there. You can add photos, videos. That will sit on your project page and it's under its own little tab. And it will also get emailed out to everybody that's supported you so far. So it's a brilliant way to thank them for their support, let them know what's happening with the crowdfunder and also outside of the crowdfunder. So just what's happening for your organization, or, you might have had some competitions coming up or events that you've done. Take some pictures, post an update. People like to see what's going on and how it's all developing. And then also on that, making sure you go back to a previous crowdfunder when it's been successful. Maybe you've managed to spend the money, the project's underway, post an update back on your previous page. Your existing supporters will receive that as well. The other thing it can be really useful for is thinking of it as a bit of a digital archive of your fundraising achievements and your community engagement. You can actually leverage your crowdfunding campaign to maybe unlock further funding from outside of Crowdfunder. Maybe it is a conversation with a local authority or with a philanthropic organization close to you. But you can, show them your crowdfunder, send them a link and say, we were supported by this many members of our community who had these wonderful things to say. We had these local businesses get behind us, and actually here's some photographic evidence of what we've done. Here's some testimonials that we got at the opening day of our project. All those things can be grouped and kept together on your crowdfunding campaign. And actually, that's really useful for you going forward, for your overall fundraising strategy and unlocking future funds. A good way to kind of keep on top of the promotional side of things is to think about some really basic spreadsheet or kind of table that you can update. So think about having one column which has got your different audiences, so those groups that we talked about, another column which is the method of which you're going to contact them, and then the status of that communication. So it could well be that, let's look at the leisure centre. You might be a member of the local leisure centre. You might go and do some spin classes there of a morning. Go and speak to the manager. Maybe have a chat about what you're doing. See if they would put up a poster or maybe a couple of leaflets. And then update that status so you can see that the project owner has gone and done that. They've spoken to the manager, they've dropped off some flyers, and then that can be referred back to and updated. So actually, if you've not heard from that manager or the sports centre, the leisure centre, for a little while, you might pop back in, see if they need a top up of flyers, see if anyone's been asking about it. Maybe that could develop into a reward ask with that organization or that leisure centre. Maybe they could do a discounted, one-off membership or venue hire, any of those things. So it can develop and that status can change. But it's a really good way of keeping on top of what you're doing, because when the project is live, you want to be able to be reactive to things rather than constantly having to think, okay, what's the best way that we could be doing this? Because actually, we want you to be able to keep the momentum with a crowdfunding campaign. That's really important. And knowing where you're at with all of these different elements of communication is going to be really helpful for you going forward. So just a few tips then on getting started with the crowdfunding side of things. We always recommend that you try and start strong. And what we mean by that is actually having conversations with some of your really close networks before you even go live and seeing if you can get some promises of pledges and donations ready for when you do. If you've got an idea of maybe where the first 10% of your target is going to come from, that's put you in a really strong position. I would recommend having a bit of a soft launch. So I'd go live with a project. I would reach back out to that core group of my network that have promised me those pledges. And I'd say, please, can you go onto the page and make those donations and pledges now in the next kind of day or so? Once you've got those amassed on your campaign, so you've got some support, you've got some money raised and maybe some lovely comments of support, that is when you can have a public launch. The reason I recommend that is when you launch your page kind of publicly to the wider network, there might be some people that are quite far removed from you and your organization and your project idea. And if they look at your campaign and see that there's no support on it whatsoever, they might be hesitant to part with their money. However, if they look at that page and they can see, oh, okay, they've already raised a little bit, they've got some lovely comments of support, this is obviously something that's needed and valid, they're more likely to support you as well. So rather than just going live, shouting about it, hoping for the best, think quite strategically. Think, it's a bit of not a slow burner, but you want to start by having some money on first and then build it out to a wider audience. Try not to go too big too quickly. Set some realistic goals. So the more realistic things like your targets are, the easier they are to achieve, obviously. And think about when you've looked at your audience and you've broken it up into those different groups, think about how many people you might be able to reach. Can you reach enough people to be able to bring in the amount of money you're hoping for? Is your target achievable? It might be that you have quite a large target because that's just how much the project costs. That's fine. Think about, do you need to source funding from elsewhere? Can crowdfunding be an element of a bigger fundraising ask? If you still need to have a bigger target, think about breaking the actual amount down into realistic chunks throughout the course of the campaign. So your target, let's say, might be, I don't know, let's think of a big target, £50,000. That's pretty big. And you're running your campaign for, let's say, 5 weeks. Actually, your target is to try and raise £10,000 a week. What is that per day? What is that, ask that you're going to be putting out daily to your supporter network? It might be more palatable if it is, we need to raise X amount of money today. We need to raise X amount of money this week because then we'll be able to do this part of our project rather than we need to raise £50,000 because that can feel quite overwhelming for yourselves and also for your supporters. So think of interesting ways that you could break down to kind of milestones or bite-sized chunks, even those bigger targets that you might have. Telling your story is important, okay? So making sure that you're being authentic, making sure that you are showcasing the personality of your organization or your club, or your charity. It builds trust with your supporters if they can see that there's a human element to what you're doing. So make sure you've got some great pictures on there that really help to demonstrate what you're doing. Try and avoid things like stock images or just huge amount of sort of kind of animation and graphics. They might have their place, but actually seeing the people behind the project and the people that it could impact or has been impacting is much more engaging. And as I said, staying connected. So making sure you keep up with those updates, reaching back out to those groups of people within your network to either thank them or maybe give them a nudge or kind of have another call to action, maybe a different thing this time is important as well. Okay. Amazing. Right. I'm hoping that we're going to have some questions coming through. So if I can ask Becky and Lucy to join me on screen, please. Let's see if we've got some questions. Hi, both. Thank you. I know you've been in the chat box, haven't you, Lucy? Has there been any that have come through that would be of use for everybody?
I think there was a couple early on, which Becky touched on regarding not-for-profits and things like that. So one question was whether a local authority could apply, and yes, they can. They are eligible. And I know Becky touched on the schools being able to apply, so schools are eligible. However, there does need to be that wider community influence. So if it's a facility improvement, for example, is there ways that other community groups can also access that space and perhaps pay as play or hire it out a couple of times a week, that kind of thing. There was a few questions regarding sort of promoting and the best ways to uh, promote their crowdfunder. So that could be from, if they're running fundraising events, that could be a Christmas fair, that could be a quiz night. Probably a sensible way to do it to make sure all of your supporters are counted is to use those as a bit of a ticket sale, a bit like the Abbots Bromley Cricket Club example. They'd got their Christmas Carol concert up there and they did an early bird selection of tickets, doing them a bit as an offer, get them sold quickly. That can work really, really well. If it's an event you're specifically running that's not part of your normal seasonal income, put all of the ticket sales on there. That would be fine. If you're running a specific event, maybe a quiz night, which is solely about raising money for your cricket lanes or the new flooring. I know there was someone looking at new flooring for a sports hall. Those kind of events, get your ticket sales as a reward. That would work really well. But we all know there are going to be people there. They want to pledge on the night. Perhaps they would normally just pop a tenner into a bucket or something like that, but you can print your own QR codes off. So in the chat, I have popped a link in there. So perhaps you've got a dinner, you could use those on the middle of the dinner table so everyone can see it. Could be in the back of tickets, could be on the wall as you go in. All of those kinds of things could be there, and that would be able to help.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, I love the QR code element because you can put that on anything. We've seen people put it on t-shirts, on cupcakes, on posters, obviously. But that can be really, really helpful. We've also seen that, some people have kind of even set up things like, a tablet or a laptop or something in a clubhouse where they might need to help people kind of go through the process who might not be so familiar with kind of donating in that way. So there's lots of different things you can do that help to elevate an in-person fundraising event as well. Amazing. Thank you. I'm just
There
having a little scan as
there
well.
was a question regarding charity profile pages and the difference between that and a project page. So I did pop a link into the chat. I don't know whether that's shared to everybody. I think it has. The charity profile page is sort of there, it's live, it can be functioning all the time so people can donate to it. Whereas a project campaign is usually a short-term fire, let's get active, a real call to action, and it could be specific to a particular project that the charity is looking to run, so not just a general page. And it would be important, if you are applying for extra funding through the Crowdfunder website, it does need to be a project page that you have, not just a charity page. So if you're looking for matched funding from one of the extra funders, it does need to be a project profile page, a project campaign. Yeah.
Thanks, Luce. And the two things can interlink as well. So if you do have a charity profile, in the kind of the back admin dashboard, you can add projects, add prize draws to that. So they'll all sit together, which is quite nice. If you're a charity and you're thinking about having a kind of permanent presence, then all of your projects and things will appear kind of below your main blurb about who you are. This one is an interesting one. Can a contribution from our own reserves be included in match funding, so included into the campaign and towards match funding?
So go for it, Bex.
I would just say you have answered it, haven't you, in the chat, but it's good to talk about it as well. We would encourage organisations to raise as much as they can from the crowd. But if getting towards the end of the campaign and you have money that you'd want to put towards it, then you can talk to us if we're an extra funder, obviously, and look at adding it if you'd like to. We just need to have a conversation, find out where it's come from. But we would definitely recommend that you look at maximising your crowd before you add any of your own funds.
Amazing, thank you. This is a relatively specific, but I think overall a good question for everybody. So Carl's put in here the end date. If their end date is the 31st of December, let's say, and they've not reached their target, can I extend this or is it fixed?
So if you are getting close to your target, and you can see that actually the days are counting down, you're not quite there yet, you can extend it. That's not a problem. If your campaign is live, you can get in touch with the support team at Crowdfunder and they can extend it. Just make sure, if you've already got matched funding through ourselves, just make sure you CC in your case officer. So everyone who is awarded an extra funding through the Movement Fund, you'll be assigned a case officer who will be your day-to-day contact with us here at Sport England. Just make sure you CC them in as well so they're aware. And yeah, you can extend it. With that, I would say it's quite good to have a definite plan what you're going to do with that time. So have a bit of a social media plan. Perhaps there's a couple of new rewards you've had tucked up your sleeve that you want to sort of add on there to help, I guess, drive it forwards. So yeah, have a bit of a plan of what you intend to do with that couple of weeks extension. It isn't something that we want to extend indefinitely because crowdfunding campaigns tend to lose their momentum if they're just trickling along forever and ever. But if we can see that you're almost there and you need that bit of extra time, yeah, not a problem at all.
Amazing. I think the key there is just that communication, isn't it? So making sure that they're reaching out to Sport England ahead of time, and with that plan. An interesting one, I kind of goes back to what we talked about, putting money in from their own kind of reserves. Siobhan has had, so they've successfully raised £4,500 on their crowdfunder. Well done, you. They do have another £3,000 to raise, however. One of their donors has made a contribution through his trust to the charity, so their charity, for the climbing wall. Are they able to pay this onto the crowdfunder themselves?
Yeah, yes, you can. That's not a problem. It can depend on how much it is. So I would suggest if you can put it onto the crowdfunder, please do so. You'll be given the option of a free text field. So if it appears that it's coming from your club or organisation, you can then put in the free text field exactly who it's from. So although it looks like it's coming from the club, we know that you've actually acknowledged that this particular person has made a very kind donation. And then you can say your thank yous personally if you need to. we have found that where, I guess if it's a certain amount of money, if you find that it's £2,500 or more, we can ask if Crowdfunder can put that on manually in the background for you, and therefore it will definitely count as that extra supporter. What you don't really want to be doing is having numerous lots and lots and lots of little amounts that you're putting on there yourselves, ideally. If you know there's a few people that have said, well, I want to give you this and I want to give you that, maybe collate them together and put them on. Otherwise, for every donation there is a transaction fee, so it's not a fee to Crowdfunder; it is a fee for Stripe. So same with any use of a debit or credit card. Somebody runs a shop will have a charge associated to a debit or credit card transaction fee, and that is in there as well.
Thanks, Lucy. And I guess as well, just to mention that it is obviously fine to do so. However, there might be a point where Sport England might reach out and say, can we just verify with you? We've seen, that there's been a lot of action from your bank account onto the crowdfunder. Please, could you just provide some evidence of where that may have come from? And it could be that you've hosted a few different in-person events and actually it's come, through that. But just to be mindful that whatever you're doing, make sure you do have a little bit of a kind of an evidence trail, if you like. So if you're doing an in-person event, take some pictures, post an update, thank people for coming and how much you raised. Thank you for the quiz night. We raised X amount of money, and then that can easily be tracked on into your supporter list that's where that's come from. So just be mindful of that. But we can, as Lucy said, always put money on your behalf if needs be, if it's quite a sizable chunk of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a Q&A actually in the Q&A feature? Because I feel like I've got a little red number 1 on it, but I can't actually see it.
I've got one that's answered.
That's the only one I can see. If that's the case, that's fine.
Okay, said you could draw down funds on the completion of the project. Can it be drawn down in part, say monthly? That's a really interesting question, Melvin, and actually a function of a crowdfunding campaign. I know Becky's answered it for you, but just for everybody, a function of a crowdfunding campaign is actually once you've been live for 7 days and you've raised some money, as long as you're a keep what you raise project, which means you're going to come away with anything you raise from the crowd, regardless of hitting your target or not. Yes, you can actually receive early payouts, so they can start quite regularly. That doesn't apply to Sport England funding, okay? That only applies to money that you're raising from the crowd. So just be mindful of that. If you do need to access that money earlier than your closing date, you can do, but it will be what you've been raising from your community, not any match funding. If you decide to be an all or nothing campaign, which is the other mechanism, other way that you can fundraise, that option won't be available to you because you have to hit 100% of your target to receive any of the money that you've raised from your crowd or any of your extra funding in that respect. So a few things to consider in the way that you set up your project, but ultimately, if you need to access it a bit earlier, be a keep what you raise project and understand that you'll only be accessing money from the crowd early, not Sport England money. I hope that helps. Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. If anybody has any questions, now's the time to put them into the chat box. If there are no further questions, we will wrap it up a little bit early, give you all a few minutes back of potentially your lunchtime to have a quick cup of tea. Oh, we've got one popping in. Oh, just a comment for Lucy. This is the working from home, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah, I have a poorly child at home and she's busy painting, and I'm just watching carnage to the
You're
right
doing
of me with
so
black
well.
paint.
You're doing so well. And what I'm loving is I feel like your child is taking this opportunity to go, there's nothing she can do right now. I'm gonna live my best life. Okay, do you decide on the length of your campaign? That's a great question. So the project owners are essentially in complete control of how long they would like to run their campaigns for. So you have autonomy over obviously your target amount and then how long you're running the campaign for. One thing to bear in mind with that is there are kind of time frames surrounding the extra funding, aren't there, Becky, in terms of periods of time that they're fundraising?
Yeah, so the deadline that people are working to with Sport England awards is once we've notified somebody that they've been awarded, if they aren't already crowdfunding, they've got 10 weeks to put together 12 weeks to put together their campaign um, and get it launched, and then 10 weeks to run the campaign. Although we do advise running it for a little bit shorter, so 4 to 6 weeks initially, because we find the shorter duration campaigns seem to work a little bit better because it's easier to keep people engaged for that long. If you get to that 4 or 6 weeks 4 or 6 weeks and you're not quite at target, it's okay to extend it, like Lucy said previously, with a plan of how you plan to engage more donors. Yeah, but we wouldn't want a campaign to go on for longer than 10 weeks, ideally.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, I am going to pull up the last few slides. They're only short, just to really help people understand what support's available. So thank you, Becky, and thank you, Lucy, for your being here today. I'm just going to remove some spotlights a sec. Any questions though that you feel might come to you in the next few days, please do just get in touch with ourselves at Crowdfunder or directly with Sport England. Everyone is here to support you through this process of application and also then going on to successfully raise money. So please do reach out. We do have further support available, so regular webinars, drop-in sessions. You can come and join drop-in with Crowdfunder, a virtual drop-in, and just ask any questions of our team. We've got a brilliant knowledge hub on our platform, which essentially is full of loads of hints and tips and advice. So that can help you at every single stage. Our customer support team, who will be probably your first point of contact if you have any questions, will triage you to the different members of our team that can support you. And we have a great help centre, which was written by that customer support team. So it's really, really useful, really helpful. Most of your questions, if not all of them, can be answered in that help centre. So I do encourage you to kind of make friends with that, and also your project dashboard where you can apply for extra funding, manage every single aspect of your campaign, such as extending it yourselves, as we've talked about today, and understanding kind of how well your promotion is going, so you can look at all of the analytics and things as well. So loads of things that you can do with that dashboard. If you do need to contact us, you can drop Sport England an email, so movementfund@sportengland.org. You can call them as well. Alternatively, you can email support@crowdfunder.co.uk if you want to reach out to us directly. So next stages for yourselves then, what are your next steps? Encourage you to sign up for a free to access account on Crowdfunder and start kind of piecing together a draft project. That would then help our system be able to match your project with any of our match funders, any of our extra funding offers that could be eligible, or you could be eligible for, I should say. And no doubt with those of you on the call today, hopefully that will be Sport England Movement Fund, and you can apply for those through your project dashboard. Once you've received those approvals, or when you're ready to go live with your project, set that project live, launch it on our website, and start telling your crowd all about your incredible campaign and start raising those funds. You can connect with us and stay in touch with us on socials as well, see what's happening with different projects and what's happening in Crowdfunder world. I encourage you to tag us in all of your promotion too. If it falls onto our radar, you might get a reshare or a shout out from ourselves or even Sport England. So make sure you're tagging them in as well if you've been approved for their funding. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, Becky. Thanks, Lucy. And enjoy the rest of your days. And we look forward to seeing your projects launch soon and raise the money that you need. Thank you so much for your time.